The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. In the year 2347, they finally knew the answer. They were not alone. The galaxy was full of life, and humanity had just joined a group called the Galactic Council. The council was old, very old. It had existed for over 2 million years, and it controlled most of the Milky Way galaxy. 23,000 different species were members. Some looked like giant insects. Others looked like floating clouds of light. Some had tentacles, some had wings, and some had no bodies at all. Humans were the newest members, and the council treated them like children who had just learned to walk. Park Do-han was Earth's ambassador to the council. He was 62 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life believing that meeting alien life would be the greatest moment in human history. Now he stood in the council chambers, a massive room made of black crystal that floated in space, and he felt very small. The council speaker was a creature called a Veleth. It was tall and thin, with skin like old paper and eyes that glowed pale blue. It had lived for over 4,000 years. To the Veleth, humans were like insects that had just crawled out of the mud. Your species has been granted probationary membership, the speaker said. Its voice was cold. You will follow our laws. You will pay our taxes. You will serve the greater good of galactic civilization. In return, you will receive protection and technology. This is generous. Be grateful. Do-han bowed his head and said thank you. He had no choice. Earth's small fleet of 300 ships was nothing compared to the Council's 15 million warships. Humanity needed friends in the galaxy, and the Council was the only option. Back on Earth, in the city of Bazan, life continued as normal. The ocean was blue and beautiful. Ships flew overhead, carrying goods and people to other parts of the world. Children went to school. Parents went to work. Everyone talked about the exciting news that humanity was now part of a galactic community. Kim Yuna was 12 years old. She had long black hair and a serious face. She was smart for her age, and she always looked after her younger brother. His name was Kim Taeho, and he was 8. Taeho was small and quiet. He liked to draw pictures of spaceships and aliens. He dreamed of traveling to other planets someday. Their mother was Kim Ji-ye. She worked as an engineer at the Bizan spaceport, helping to build and repair ships. She was a kind woman who worked hard to give her children a good life. Their father was Kim Sun-woo. He was a captain in the Earth Navy, serving aboard a defense ship called the Horizon. He was away from home most of the time, but his family understood. He was protecting Earth. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. Yuna and Taeho were at school. Ji-ye was at work. The sky was clear and sunny. Then the shadows came. Massive ships appeared in the sky. They were not human ships. They were council enforcement vessels, gray and cold and shaped like teardrops. They descended on Bizan without warning. At the same time, similar ships appeared over 16 other cities around the world: Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Cairo. The list went on. Nobody knew what was happening. The ships landed and soldiers came out. They were not human soldiers. They were robots controlled by the council, tall metal figures with no faces. They marched into schools and homes with a single purpose. They were taking children. Jia heard the news on her communicator. Her heart stopped. She ran out of the spaceport and drove home as fast as she could. The streets were chaos. People were screaming. Parents were fighting the robots with their bare hands, but it was useless. The machines were too strong. When Jie reached Yuna's school, she was too late. She saw her daughter being led toward a transport ship. Yuna was holding Taeho's hand, keeping him close, keeping him calm. Even in that terrible moment, Yuna was protecting her brother. "Yuna! Taiho!" Jia screamed. She ran toward them, but the robots blocked her path. She tried to push past them, but they were like walls of steel. Yuna looked back. Her eyes met her mother's eyes. There was fear there, but also something else. Strength. Yuna nodded once, as if to say, "I will take care of him." Then they were gone. The transport ship rose into the sky and disappeared. Jie fell to her knees. The sound that came from her throat was not human. It was the sound of a mother whose children had been stolen. All around her, other parents were making the same sound. It filled the city like a wave of pure grief. On the council station, Ambassador Park demanded answers. He stormed into the council chambers and faced the speaker directly. "What have you done?" he shouted. "You took our children. This is kidnapping. This is war." The Vela speaker looked at him with no emotion. "This is not war, human. This is law. Article 7442 of the Membership Treaty grants the Council the right to collect genetic samples from new member species. Your young will serve galactic science. Their sacrifice will benefit trillions of beings." Sacrifice? Park could not believe what he was hearing. "They are children. They are not samples." "Your emotional attachment is noted," the speaker said. "But it is irrelevant. All species pay this price. The Velith paid it. The Karathi paid it. The 12 systems paid it. Humans are not special. You will accept this, or you will be removed from the council." Park stood there, shaking with anger. He finally understood the truth. The council did not see humans as equals. They never had. To them, humans were primitives, useful only for whatever value could be extracted from them. "How many?" Park asked quietly. 2,847 specimens were collected, the speaker said. "They will be transported to the Andrus Research Station for study. You may file a formal complaint if you wish. It will be reviewed in approximately 300 years." Park said nothing more. He turned and walked away. But inside his mind, a fire was burning. The council had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans would accept this. They thought humans would bow their heads and move on. They did not understand what they had awakened. Across the galaxy, aboard the horizon, Captain Kim Sunwoo received a message from his wife. When he read it, he went very still. Then he went to his quarters and sat in the dark for 1 hour. When he came out, his face was calm, but his eyes were different. Something inside him had changed. His children had been taken, and he was going to get them back, no matter what it cost. Earth was burning with anger, not with fire, but with rage. In every city, on every continent, people filled the streets. They carried pictures of their stolen children. They shouted at the sky. They demanded justice. The United Earth government called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every nation gathered in Geneva. The meeting room was silent when President Yoon Hye-jin walked in. She was 58 years old, a former general who had fought in the last war on Earth 30 years ago. She had short gray hair and eyes like cold steel. Nobody had ever seen her cry. Nobody had ever seen her lose control. She stood at the front of the room and looked at the faces of the world's leaders. They were scared. They were angry. They wanted her to tell them what to do. 2,847 children, she said. Her voice was calm. That is how many they took. Sons and daughters. Brothers and sisters. They took them because they think we are weak. They took them because they think we will do nothing. She paused and let the silence fill the room. They were wrong. Admiral Choi Byung-ho was the commander of Earth's defense fleet. He was a large man with a round face and gentle eyes. People often thought he looked like someone's friendly uncle, but those who knew him understood the truth. Behind those gentle eyes was a mind that never stopped planning, never stopped calculating. He presented the situation to the president and the other leaders. Earth had 340 warships. The council had over 15 million. Direct combat was impossible. Any attack would be suicide. Then, what do we do? One of the leaders asked. Just accept it? Let them take our children and do nothing? Admiral Choi shook his head. We do not accept it. We prepare. We learn. And when the time is right, we strike. President Yoon agreed. She gave the order. Project Ember was born. Project Ember had one goal: build a fleet strong enough to hurt the council. Not defeat them. That was impossible. But hurt them badly enough to make them regret what they had done. Every shipyard on Earth and Luna began working day and night. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Scientists who studied medicine started studying alien technology. The whole planet worked together with a single purpose. Captain Kim Sun-woo came to see the admiral. He did not ask permission. He walked into Choi's office and stood at attention. Sir, I want to lead a reconnaissance mission to find where they took the children. Admiral Choi looked at him. He knew about Sun-woo's children. He knew the pain the captain was feeling. It is dangerous, the admiral said. The council controls that space. If they catch you, they will kill you. I understand, sir. You might not find anything. I understand, sir. Admiral Choi was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Take 2 ships with you. Use the new stealth technology. Find our children, Captain. Find them and come back alive. Sun-woo's ship, along with 2 others, left Earth 3 days later. They flew in silence, hiding from council sensors, moving through empty space where no one would look for them. It took them 4 months to reach the Andros cluster, 4,200 light years from Earth. Back on Earth, Ji-hye could not simply wait. Her children were out there somewhere, and she needed to do something. She joined an underground group of parents and scientists who were studying council technology. They worked in secret, analyzing every piece of alien equipment they could find. One night, she met a man named Lee Min-ho. He was a physicist, quiet and thin with glasses that were always slightly crooked. His daughter, Lee Saw-hee, had been taken from her school in Seoul. She was 10 years old. We will find them, Ji-hye said to him. Min-ho looked at her with empty eyes. I know, he said. And then we will make them pay. They worked together every night after their regular jobs ended. Min-ho was brilliant. He could look at alien technology and understand how it worked in minutes. After 3 weeks, he discovered something important. Their shields, he said, showing Ji-hye his calculations. They have a weakness. A specific frequency that disrupts the energy field. If we hit them with that frequency, their shields collapse. This information was sent to the military. Within days, engineers began building new weapons designed to exploit this weakness. On the council station, Ambassador Park played a dangerous game. He pretended to accept what had happened. He smiled at the Vela speaker. He attended meetings and said nothing controversial. The council thought he was broken, just another weak human who had learned his place. They did not see what he was really doing. Park was making friends. He discovered that 17 council species had voted against taking human children. They thought it was wrong. They were afraid of what might happen. Park found these species and talked to them in secret. He built relationships. He gathered information. He learned that the council had done this before. Many times. Whenever a new species joined, the council took their children for research. Most species accepted it because they had no choice. But some had tried to fight back. Those species no longer existed. Humans are different. Park told a friend from a species called the Telvanni. "We do not forget. We do not forgive." The Telvanni looked at him with its 4 eyes. "Then you will die like the others." Park smiled. "Perhaps. But we will not die quietly." 8 months passed. Earth's new fleet grew to 840 ships. The harmonic weapons were installed and tested. Training intensified. Every pilot, every soldier, every engineer knew why they were working so hard. Then Captain Sunwoo returned. He came to Earth with detailed scans of the Andrus research station. He had found the children. They were alive, but they were being hurt. The council scientists were running experiments on them, cutting them open, testing their limits, studying what made humans different from other species. Some children had already died. Sunwoo reported this information to Admiral Choi and President Yoon. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "My children are alive," he said. "I saw their life signs on the scanner, but they are running out of time. We need to act now." President Yoon looked at him, then at Admiral Choi. The Admiral nodded. "Begin Operation Black Tide," she said. "We are going to bring our children home." The room was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. They were about to go to war against the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they were going to win or they were going to die trying. There was no other option. The Andrus research station floated in the darkness between stars. It was huge, shaped like a wheel, spinning slowly to create gravity. Lights blinked on its surface like cold stars. Inside, thousands of scientists from dozens of species worked on their experiments. They studied biology, chemistry, physics. They studied life itself. They also studied children in the lower levels of the station. Behind locked doors and security fields, 2,156 human children were kept in small rooms. They were given food and water. They were kept clean. But they were not treated like people. They were treated like animals in a laboratory. Kim Yuna had become their leader. She was only 12, but she was the oldest child in her section. The younger ones looked to her for comfort. When they cried, she held them. When they were scared, she told them stories about Earth. When the scientists came to take someone for testing, she stood in front of the doors and refused to move until the guards pushed her aside. Her brother, Taiho, had stopped speaking. The things he had seen were too terrible for words. He spent his days drawing pictures on the walls of his room with a piece of chalk he had found. He drew their home in Bizen. He drew the ocean. He drew their mother and father. He never drew the station or the aliens. One day, a guard told Yuna that her name was on the list for the next round of experiments. She knew what that meant. Some children came back from those experiments. Some did not. She looked at Taiho. He was sleeping in the corner, his small body curled into a ball. "If I do not come back," she said to the older children, "take care of him. Promise me." They promised, but Yuna did not go to the experiment room that day. Something else happened first. 200 human ships appeared out of hyperspace directly above the station. They came so fast and so close that the Council defenders had no time to react. The lead ship was the Horizon, commanded by Captain Kim Sunwoo. His eyes were fixed on the station ahead. His children were in there. "All ships fire," he said. The new weapons worked perfectly. Beams of energy hit the Council ships at exactly the right frequency. Their shields flickered once and then collapsed like soap bubbles. Without shields, the Council ships were helpless. Human missiles tore through their hulls. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. The battle lasted 40 minutes. The Council had 50 ships defending the station. All 50 were destroyed. Humanity lost only 7 ships. While the battle raged outside, transport ships landed on the station itself. Soldiers poured out, wearing heavy armor and carrying weapons designed for close combat. Captain Sunwoo led them personally. He had trained for this moment for 8 months. He knew every corridor, every room, every security system. His team had studied the station's blueprints until they could navigate it in their sleep. They moved fast. Council guards tried to stop them, but human soldiers were filled with a cold rage that made them unstoppable. They were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for their children. Sunwoo's team reached the detention level. The doors were locked with alien technology, but the engineers had prepared for this. A soldier placed a device on the door, pressed a button, and the lock shattered. The doors opened. Sunwoo stepped inside. Rows of small rooms stretched out before him. Children pressed against the transparent walls, their eyes wide with fear and hope. "We are here," Sunwoo announced over the speaker system. "We are from Earth. We have come to take you home." The sound that followed was something he would never forget. Crying, laughing, cheering, the sounds of children who had been told they would never be rescued. Finally seeing that someone had come for them, Sunwoo moved through the corridors, opening doors one by one. He searched every face, looking for the two he loved most. Then he found them. Yuna was standing in front of a door, her arms spread wide, protecting a group of younger children behind her. She had heard the alarms and assumed the worst. She was ready to fight anyone who tried to take them. When she saw her father's face, she did not move at first. She did not believe it was real. "Yuna," Sunwoo said. His voice cracked. "Dad," she whispered. He ran to her and held her tight. She was thin. She was pale. But she was alive. "Where is Taiho?" he asked. Yuna led him to a nearby room. Taiho was sitting in the corner, drawing on the wall. When the door opened, he looked up. He saw his father. His eyes went wide. He still did not speak, but he ran across the room and crashed into his father's arms. Sunwoo held both his children, one in each arm, and for a moment, the war did not exist. There was only this. His family together again. "We need to move," a soldier said gently. "More council ships are coming." Sunwoo nodded. He picked up Taiho, who was too weak to run fast. Yuna walked beside him, her hand gripping his sleeve like she would never let go. The evacuation took 3 hours. Every child was loaded onto transport ships. Medical teams worked constantly, treating injuries and illness. Some children were too sick to move and had to be carried on stretchers. When the last child was aboard, Sunwoo gave the final order. Charges had been placed throughout the station during the rescue. Now it was time to use them. He pressed the button himself. The explosion was massive. The entire station broke apart, pieces flying in all directions. The light from the blast was visible from 3 star systems away. Every scientist, every guard, every piece of data from those terrible experiments was destroyed. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace and disappeared before Council. Reinforcements could arrive at the business spaceport. Jihei waited with thousands of other parents. She had not slept in 3 days. She had not eaten. She could only stand there and watch the sky. When the ships appeared, the crowd went silent. Everyone held their breath. The transports landed. The doors opened. Children began to walk down the ramps. Jihei saw them first. Sunwoo, carrying Taiho, Yuna, walking beside them. They looked older somehow, changed, but they were alive. She ran to them. She did not remember running. One moment she was standing still. The next moment she was holding all 3 of them, crying and laughing at the same time. "I told them," Yuna said into her mother's shoulder. "I told them someone would come. They said no one cared about us. I said they did not know humans." Jia held her daughter's face in her hands. "You were right," she said. "You were always right." But the joy was not complete. Of the 2,847 children taken, only 2,156 returned. 691 had died during the experiments. Their parents waited at spaceports around the world, but their children never came. Lee Min-ho was one of those parents. His daughter saw he was not on any of the ships. He stood at the Seoul spaceport until every child had been accounted for. Then he walked away without saying a word. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply went back to his laboratory and continued working. The rescue was over, but the war was just beginning. The Galactic Council was furious. They had ruled the galaxy for 2 million years. No species had ever attacked them directly. No species had ever destroyed one of their stations. And no species had ever killed their soldiers and escaped. The Vela speaker called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all 23,000 member species gathered in the Great Chamber. The speaker's pale eyes glowed with cold anger. "The humans have committed an act of war," the speaker announced. "They attacked our station. They killed our people. They destroyed valuable research. This cannot be allowed." The chamber was full of agreement. Most species believed humans needed to be punished. Some suggested destroying Earth completely. Others wanted to enslave the entire human race. A few suggested taking more children as punishment. The council sent a message to Earth. It was simple and direct. Surrender the officers responsible for the attack, or face total destruction. Human civilization would be erased from history. President Yoon received the message in her office. She read it once. Then she called for a broadcast to be prepared. Not just for Earth, for the entire galaxy. Every communication system in the Milky Way carried her response. Billions of beings on thousands of planets watched the human leader speak. She stood straight and tall. Her gray hair was pulled back. Her eyes were hard as stone. "You stole our children," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was something terrifying underneath. "You experimented on them. You hurt them. You killed 691 of them. And you expected us to do nothing." She paused. "Now you will learn what humanity does to those who harm our young. We do not negotiate. We do not forget. We do not forgive. We are coming." The council did not take the threats seriously. What could 800 human ships do against 15 million? The speaker ordered the largest fleet in council history to assemble. 100,000 warships would travel to Earth and end the human threat forever. But Admiral Choi had other plans. Human ships did not fly toward Earth to defend it. Instead, they scattered across the galaxy in small groups. The council expected a final stand. What they got was something far worse. Humanity had spent 8 months studying the council. They knew how it worked. They knew what held it together. And they knew exactly where to strike. The first targets were the hyperspace relay stations. These were giant machines floating in empty space, allowing instant communication across the galaxy. The council used them to coordinate their massive fleet. Without them, ships on one side of the galaxy could not talk to ships on the other side. There were 17 relay stations. Human ships destroyed all 17 in a single day. Suddenly, the council fleet could not coordinate. Orders took days to deliver instead of seconds. Ships did not know where to go or what to do. The 100,000 warships became 100,000 confused ships flying in different directions. Then humanity struck the fuel refineries. Council ships used a special fuel that could only be produced at certain locations. Human teams attacked these locations one by one. Without fuel, ships could not move. The Great Council fleet began to run dry. Next came the ammunition depots, then the shipyards, then the food supply stations that fed the crews. Human ships were small and fast. They appeared out of nowhere, destroyed their targets, and vanished before anyone could respond. Council commanders sent ships to chase them, but it was like trying to catch smoke with your hands. Lee Minho worked without rest. His laboratory produced new weapons every week. Each weapon was more powerful than the last. Each weapon was named after a child who had died. The most feared was called the Sahi Protocol, named after his daughter. It was a virus that could be uploaded to Council ship computers. Once inside, it caused the ship's reactor to overload. The ship would explode from the inside. No shield could stop it. No armor could protect against it. Minho tested the Sahi Protocol himself. He flew on a small ship to a Council patrol. He uploaded the virus. He watched as 5 Council destroyers exploded one after another. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He simply recorded the results and returned home to build something even more deadly. The war continued for 6 months. Human ships attacked every day, every night, never stopping, never resting. Council admirals tried to fight back, but they could not catch an enemy that refused to stand still. The numbers grew. 1,000 Council ships destroyed, then 2,000, then 5,000, then 10,000. President Yoon received reports every morning. She tracked every battle, every victory, every loss. Humanity lost ships too. Good people died, but they never stopped fighting. Admiral Sunwoo, now promoted for his role in the rescue, led the most dangerous missions himself. He had not been home since the war began. GA and the children understood. This was something he had to do. Yuna followed the news carefully. She knew her father was out there somewhere, fighting. She wanted to help, but she was too young. Instead, she helped the other rescued children adjust to life back on Earth. Many of them had nightmares. Many of them were afraid of the sky. Yuna stayed with them, talked to them, reminded them that they were safe now. Taiho still did not speak. But slowly, with help from doctors and his family, he began to draw again. Not just pictures of home. Pictures of the future. Spaceships with human flags. Stars with human names. A galaxy where no child would ever be taken again. After 6 months, the final count was clear. Humanity had destroyed 15,000 Council warships. They had crippled the infrastructure that held the Council together. The great machine that had ruled the galaxy for 2 million years was breaking apart. More importantly, other species were watching. They saw what humans had done with only 800 ships. They saw the Council's weakness exposed. They began to ask questions they had never dared to ask before. If the humans could fight back, why couldn't they? The galaxy was changing, and humanity had changed it. But the war was not over yet. The Council still had millions of ships. They could still destroy Earth if they truly committed to it. The question was, did they have the will to pay the price? President Yoon knew the answer. She had always known. The Council was about to learn that some fights are not worth winning, and some enemies are too dangerous to challenge. Humanity was that enemy, and they were just getting started. The Galactic Council was dying. Not quickly, like a ship exploding in battle. Slowly, like an old tree rotting from the inside. The 17 species who had voted against taking human children declared independence. They had watched humanity fight, and they had made a choice. They would no longer be part of a system that stole children from their families. They formed a new alliance with humanity at its center. Then 12 more species joined. They were tired of Council rules. They were tired of Council taxes. They were tired of being afraid. The humans had shown them that the Council could be beaten. The remaining Council members held emergency meetings every day. The Vela speaker tried to hold things together, but it was impossible. Ships that should have been fighting humans were now guarding borders between Council species, who no longer trusted each other. After 1 year of war, The council did something they had never done in 2 million years. They asked for peace. Ambassador parked them and returned to the council chambers. The same black crystal room where he had once stood as a powerless representative of a weak species. Now everything was different. The council members who had laughed at humanity were silent. The Vela speaker looked old and tired. "What are your terms?" The speaker asked. Park did not smile. He did not show any emotion at all. He simply read from a document that had been prepared by President Yoon herself. First, all children taken from any species in council history will be returned to their homeworlds. Those who died will be given proper burial according to their species' customs. The council will pay for monuments to honor their memory. The council representatives shifted uncomfortably. This would require admitting what they had done. It would require facing the families they had destroyed. Second, genetic sampling of sentient beings without consent is now a capital crime. Any official who orders such sampling, any scientist who performs it, any soldier who participates in it, will face execution. More shifting, more discomfort. Third, the officials who authorize the taking of human children will face trial. Not a council trial, a human trial. On Earth, they will be judged by the families of the children they killed. The speaker's pale eyes flickered. That is not acceptable. Our officials cannot be judged by. Fourth, Park continued, ignoring the interruption. Humanity will have a permanent seat on the council with full voting rights. We will no longer be probationary members. We will no longer be treated as children. We will be equals. He folded the document and looked directly at the speaker. These terms are not negotiable. The chamber was silent. The speaker stared at Park with ancient eyes full of hatred and fear. And if we refuse? Park's face did not change. Then you will learn that 15,000 ships was just the beginning. The council debated for 3 days. Some wanted to continue fighting. Some wanted to destroy Earth, even if it cost them everything. But in the end, reality won. They had lost too many ships. They had lost too many allies. They had lost too much. They accepted the terms. The officials who had ordered the taking were sent to Earth. They stood trial in a special court in Geneva. Families of the dead children sat in the audience and watched. The trials lasted 6 months. Every official was found guilty. The executions were quick and clean. Ga attended one of the trials. She did not speak. She did not cry. She simply sat and watched as the beings who had taken her children were judged. Afterward, she went home to Bizin. Her children were waiting for her. Sunwoo was there too, finally home after a year of war. They sat together on their balcony, looking at the ocean. "Is it over?" Yuna asked. "The war is over," Jihei said. "But we will never forget what happened. None of us will." 5 years passed. The galaxy changed. The new alliance grew stronger. 34 species were now members, working together as equals. Humans held important positions in government, science, and military. They were no longer the newcomers. They were the leaders. Kim Yuna graduated from the Earth Defense Academy. She was top of her class, the youngest person ever to achieve that honor. Her graduation speech was broadcast across the alliance. "I was taken when I was 12 years old," she said to the audience. "I was told that no one would come for me. I was told that I was just a specimen, a sample, something to be studied and thrown away." She paused and looked at her family in the front row. Her mother, her father, her brother. I told them they were wrong. I told them they did not know humans. I told them that my family would come. And they did. She stood up straight, just like her mother always did. The galaxy has learned an important lesson. Harm a human child, and we will find you. We will fight you. We will defeat you. Not because we are stronger. Not because we are smarter. because we will never stop. Our love for our children is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. Taiho sat in the audience. He was 13 now, no longer the silent child who drew pictures on walls. The doctors had helped him find his voice again. Now, he was an artist, creating beautiful paintings that hung in galleries around the world. His most famous work was in the Memorial Garden in Bizan. It was a massive painting of 691 stars, one for each child who never came home. In the center of the stars was a human family, holding hands, looking up at the sky. The painting was called Never Again. Admiral Sunwoo retired that same year. He had done enough. He had saved his children. He had helped save thousands more. Now he wanted to be a father and a husband, nothing more. He spent his days fishing in the ocean near Bizan. Sometimes Taiho came with him. They did not talk much. They did not need to. They simply sat together, enjoying the peace. Lee Mi-ho never married again. His daughter was gone, and no one could replace her. But he found purpose in teaching. He became a professor of physics at Seoul National University. His students loved him. They did not know about his role in the war, about the weapons he had created, about the ships he had destroyed. They only knew that he was a kind teacher who always had time for their questions, and that he kept a photograph on his desk of a little girl with a bright smile. President Yoon served 2 more terms before stepping down. Her final address to the planet was simple and short. "We have survived," she said. "We have grown. We have become something greater than we were. But we must never forget why we fought. We fought for our children. We fought for their future. Let us make sure the future is worth fighting for." The galaxy continued to spin. Stars were born and died. Species rose and fell. Empires crumbled and new ones took their place. But one thing remained constant. One story was told on every planet, in every language, to every new generation. The story of the humans who went to war against an empire for their children. And one. It became a warning to anyone who might think of harming human young. A reminder that some species should not be tested. A lesson that some prices are too high to pay. The speaker of the old council, the Velith, who had dismissed human emotions as irrelevant, lived for another 1,000 years. Every day of those years, he remembered the moment when he realized his mistake. The moment when he understood that humans were not weak primitives. They were something far more dangerous. They were parents. And in all the long history of the galaxy, nothing had ever been more terrifying than a parent protecting their child. Nothing ever would be.